Another insight into the mad mind of Murray. Words have power. That's why you choose them wisely. Words of power, that's what they're called spelling. So I'm going to give you an example, a simple sentence that we've probably heard our 2 or 3 or 4-year-old kids say lots of times. Do you know when you're with your kids and they've got a habit of embarrassing you in public and they'll just say it exactly how it is, how they feel? I don't like him, I don't like you, I don't like her. And our instant response would be, you can't say that. But instead of that, I want you to ask yourself, why? Why can't they say that if it's how they feel? Because this is the biggest problem we suffer from, and none of us really bring it to our awareness because of the subconscious mind and the conditioning of the subconscious mind, societal and cultural beliefs. If a child is expressing how they truly feel, then that's the most honest, authentic version of themselves. Now, that being said, we as parents have a duty to educate them and to bring them up in a way that they understand how to communicate with others without causing offense, but while being their authentic self. Okay? What we do is we feel embarrassed when our daughters or sons say how they feel about someone or some situation or something, and we automatically turn to the programmed conditioning of our experiences and tell them, you can't say that. Because in our conscious mind, we are saying they're not going to be accepted by society. They're going to feel embarrassed. They're going to be ostracized for that type of behavior. And it's true. They may do if they continue growing up. But we can educate them in what is wrong versus what is acceptable. It's acceptable that our sons and daughters do not like someone. It is acceptable in certain situations, depending on the context and the culture, that they could say that. But our job is to allow them to express how they feel. Maybe not to the person, but to articulate it in a way that they feel empowered, and that we can educate them in a way that helps them understand, to articulate it in a way that they feel empowered, and that we can educate them in a way that helps them understand to continually receive our love. And what that does, the programming starts penetrating their authentic self, and they start putting on masks. They're wounded. They feel like they've been stabbed when we're shouted at them and they come into shock. So they put on armor, but that wound's still bleeding. And as they grow and we continually do these type of things, unconsciously on our part as well, because we're just doing what's done to us and what's culturally accepted and expected by us, they have to learn, but we don't express correctly how to navigate this. We just tell them through our own embarrassment, don't do that, you can't do that, that's wrong, that's bad, you're bad. But they're not bad, they're children. And this happened to us. So they continually put on more armor to protect themselves and to not be attacked, feel attacked, so they can cope. But that wound is still bleeding. And the only way we as adults can get to a place where we can recognize what we're doing, bringing our unconscious patterns to the conscious so that we don't imprint them on our children, is by us removing our armor, tending to the wound. But that requires being vulnerable. That requires us to risk the arrows that are going to be fired by life at us in order to heal ourselves. Once we heal that wound, we can then put more armor on ourselves and protect ourselves in a different way. So it's not wrong what they said. They were being true. They were being authentic. But it's also not acceptable that they express it in today's culture, or they're going to have more trouble in life. So we need to find a way as adults to allow them to express how they feel without making them feel belittled and berated for doing so. So we can stop and say, hey, would you like someone to say that to you in front of everyone else? And allow them to start thinking themselves. No, I wouldn't. Okay, so why don't you like them? Ask them a question. Why don't you like them? Because the context could be, maybe they got hit. Maybe they've done something. Maybe they fear them. We don't know the context that 4-year-old self is experiencing this experience, we're taking it from our experience as an adult who says that's wrong. It's not acceptable in today's society, but it's also not wrong for the child to express that. And the more we can bring ourselves to the present and recognize what's going on, the more we're empowering ourselves to be able to cope and communicate to our children how they should navigate this experience, what they should do instead of, and not putting blame, shame, and guilt onto our children from that perspective, because everything we do as adults is imprinted from the perspective of from the experience of the child. Now, every time our kids do this, it's opportunity for lessons and opportunities for us to grow as adults and to help our children grow as children to be more emotionally, mentally stable. When they can recognize their own traits, and remember they're 4-year-old kids, so we do this from a perspective of a 4-year-old. We don't bombard them with like Jungian psychology, but we allow them to express how they feel, because anything unexpressed is depressed, suppressed, down. And then the shame and guilt is piled on top of that. And then they will try to navigate the world from their perspective while terrified to express how they truly authentically feel in case of belittlement by their parents and the people who love them. And we're unaware of how they're feeling. And then we're creating this experience. And this is every single child. I'm not saying it's impossible to stop. It's not. It isn't possible to stop all this. But when we bring more awareness to our actions, we can help our children grow into strong, healthy adults, teenagers who are going to be able to cope with what life throws at them in a more mature way. Because why is this important? Because the experience becomes imprinted in the central nervous system and the body. I'm sorry, can't even remember it. CNS and I don't know what I wrote there. And therefore the body, sorry. So let's start again. Because that experience becomes imprinted in the CNS and therefore the body. The bigger the experience, the bigger the imprintment. So it could be us belittling them, it could be abuse. It could be mental, physical, emotional, sexual abuse. But the imprintment of the experience, digested from the perspective of the age you experience it at, is going to be expressed in the adult from the perspective of the age you experience it at. And this is why so many of us adults revert to childlike behaviours when we encounter experiences that shouldn't impact us the way they do. Do you ever see an adult and you go, whoa, and people go, what the fuck did I say there? Jesus, that was crazy. That's because there's an energy within that adult from an experience that's been unexpressed yet from childhood that is still within them. And the subconscious mind doesn't see that adult as an adult anymore. It just sees it from the perspective of the experience. So the remnants of that energy, of that experience, say at 6, is going to be expressed by a 45-year-old man from the perspective he experienced it when he was 6. And this is all of us. This is every single one of us. And I know a lot of people go, whatever. It's because it's so difficult to approach and so difficult to deal with. But when we deal with it, so there's the saying that people you'll hear it saying, you've got to heal it. You've got to feel it to heal it. I don't agree with that completely. I think you've got to feel it first. Then you've got to deal it with it. Then you're going to heal it. So it's the feelings, the emotion. That's the perspective of a child. The dealing with it is the integration. So the reparenting of the experience. For example, inner child work. Inner child work is a fantastic way to start healing your childhood traumas. And what it is basically, in a nutshell, you going into your subconscious mind and allowing those feelings, from the energy of those feelings to come back up, to bubble up the surface again. And you're going to reparent yourself from that perspective. So when you were 4, 5, or 6, or 7, or 8, what you really needed in that moment was your mum and dad or your grandparents or whoever was to pick you up, to love you, to hold you, hold that space to allow you to express the emotion that you felt from that experience in complete safety. You needed the parent to be the shield so you could be the child and express and cry and scream and rage. Instead, what happened was you were told to shut up. You were told shut your bit because you were embarrassing your parent because your parent didn't know how to deal with this. Your parent was more worried about the cultural influences of others, the opinions of people they don't know, because that's just how society's created. So instead you had to bottle it up. And your parents, it's not their fault because the same was done to them. So this is just generational trauma and experiences being passed on. So you needed that. But now, as like I say, a 48-year-old man, so this is the work I do, a lot of the work I do is shadow work and inner child work that I do with myself and others. So when I'm doing it, I go into, it's called journeying, and you go into your mind, subconscious mind, and you'll see your inner child, you'll see that wee child in you, and you will relive that experience. And if you were witnessing it, you would see me as a 48-year-old man crying, screaming, punching the ground, whatever it is, as a 48-year-old man. But internally, what I'm doing is I am allowing the 4-year-old, the 5-year-old, 6-year-old to express the emotion that they needed to express to release the energy that's still kept up inside of me. And once I'm holding space for myself, basically, I'm reparenting myself. I'm being the parent that I needed, that I didn't have access to. Not judgment in my parents, no judgment in anyone's parents. This is just how we grow. This is the life experience we all have to go through. And whether you believe this or not is irrelevant, to be honest with you, because some people are going to go, I'm talking absolute woo-woo, but that's the subconscious mind. That's the cultural programs. That's the fear narratives. That's the protection programs at play from your subconscious mind, preventing you from accepting what I'm saying to have any truth. Because if what I'm saying has any truth, that's going to open Pandora's box, and you're going to have to be forced to confront and fix programs from your past that are imprinting you in the present, which are affecting your future. And this is why I do so much emotional work, because I see it in the gym. I see so many people failing their journeys because the experience of their fitness journey is bringing up programs from their past that they can't overcome. The barriers are too much, and they go into the childlike actions of like self-sabotage, food, drink, whatever it is, skipping the gym, making excuses, throwing tantrums when you're called out. Come on, get going. No, I don't want to. It's all playing out. So, I'm saying, yep, read that, haven't I? Yeah, triggered and reverted back to the self. So when you allow yourself to express the emotion within you, you're clearing that energy. Now, to go woo-woo for a bit, these energies can be within you from your own life experience. These energies can be cultural experiences, collective experiences. You know, in Arab countries, it's normal for men, heterosexual men, to hold hands. Back in the 90s, if you had walked down West Belfast holding two men holding hands, you would have been slobbered and slagged beyond recognition. Cultural experience. And then we've got ancestral experience. That would be your mum and dad passing on the program that they experienced from their parents to you because they didn't heal their experience. And it's not judgment on you. It's not like they're being bad to you. They are loving you from the perspective they were loved. You can only love your children as deeply as you were loved. So if you never bring my done my video on the 7 A's, if you watch it, you'll see it. If you're activated, the trigger by your child's behavior, if you're not aware of the reason why it's happening, you're going to pass that program on to your child. So to go through it again, I'll just say that. Activation, your child, I don't like him. Your instant program is going to be, whoa, we can't say that, that's wrong. But if you're aware, then you can see what's happening. If you've acknowledged, if you've acknowledged it, then you're not going to be likely to be triggered at all. If you've accepted it, then you see it for what it is. You've taken action to heal it. Now you've taken the action, so you understand the process, so you understand the way to express to your child the correct way, or a better way. Not the correct way, there's never a correct way. There's a better way of approaching it that's going to strengthen them. And that could mean them having to think from the 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old perspective, but it's wrong. That's the way it is. Which allows them to be more themselves, which leads to authenticity. I'm just scribbling these words. authenticity, and they remain closer to their authentic self. The closer we can remain to the authentic self growing up, the stronger and more resilient we're going to be. If we're allowed to express ourselves, if we're given the tools, the emotional and mental tools to cope with other people's opinions and not get triggered, to allow ourselves to be who we're meant to be. My daughter, Evelyn, is a wee dancer. She will stand in Lidl or Tesco's and she'll be like, wee, and do all this dancing where most people are embarrassed, but she does not care. She loves being authentic self. So what do? When I see her do that, I dance with her. And I don't care what other people think. And you know what's happened to me doing that? It's given me this freedom where I can go, I no longer worry about other people's opinion, because that would have embarrassed me 5 years ago. Now I have done so much work on myself that I can allow her to be her, and I can be that safety net. I can hold space for her to allow her to remain as authentic as possible, knowing that she's being looked at, but she's processing that differently now because she has processed it from the safety of my daddy's protecting me. I can be me. And that gives her confidence, and that allows her to be good, and that allows her to continually allow herself to express and dance and liberate herself. What has happened for me is in that moment, I bring myself back to that child, and I feel the energy of Evelyn, and I get involved with it, and the two of us have a laugh. Yeah, oh no. I was walking with her the other day, and she goes, right, Daddy, we're going to skip. And she was like, today, and I do this. And then she goes, Daddy, we're going to go, Dad. And I was like, no, I'm not ready to do that yet, sweetheart. And she laughed at me, and she continued doing it, knowing that she feels safe. So this is an amazing process to go through. I wish more people could embrace this type of work, because when you do it, you not only liberate your children, you liberate yourself. And through that liberation of self and your child, collectively, we start liberating ourselves, each other. And culturally, we change things. If we want a better world for our kids, we need to step into this type of work, because this is going to change everything. Sorry for the woo-woo. Hope you got something from that.